Carly, you're in charge, so I'm going to let you drive.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to our session this afternoon. So today's session focuses on how lean can help make the world a better place. And my name is Carly. I'm a lean facilitator with Lean Enterprise Australia. And we welcome today Mike Duggan, the Chief Operating Officer of charity organisation Orange Sky Laundry, along with Nigel, who we've already met today. And Nigel has been working with the team at Orange Sky Laundry over a number of years and has helped guide their lean journey. And so today we'll discuss that journey with Mike. So Mike, maybe if you can begin by introducing your audience today to Orange Sky Laundry and the amazing work that you do.
That would be a pleasure. And Nigel, it's wonderful to see you again and be able to collaborate across the distance. As Carly said, my name's Mike Duggan. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Orange Sky Australia. I've been lucky enough to be there for 2 3/4 years now. And it's been an amazing few years. In fact, in my operational years of operational experience, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like it. And I'm sure many presenters say that. It's been a few years of challenge, but it's also been a wonderful opportunity for us to innovate as an organization and to really take some of the things that we learned a few years ago when we attended the Lean conference here in Australia, down in Melbourne, with Nigel and Alistair and Denise and John, who I'd met for the first time then, to really take those and be able to implement them in our organization. And as a young organization, I think finding a way to be able to utilize tools and systems that improve our efficiency and effectiveness as a team and as a provider of social impact services was something that really opened our eyes to the possibilities. A little bit about Orange Sky. Been around for 7 years now. Effectively, what we do, it seems like a very simple process. We have these mobile and static assets, things like vans, things like laundry pods, which are stay in one place for most of the time, that either travel around or that volunteers come and travel to use, basically to provide a service. And our main service is washes, showers, but more importantly than that, we found over the years that probably one of the most important things we provide is actually purposeful connection, and the conversations that happen on the orange chairs are really probably our most important output as an organization. So our mission as an organization is to positively connect communities, and we now do that across over 23 now communities inside of metro and regional areas, and now upwards of 6 and growing up to 10 or 11 by the end of the year, remote communities around Australia and New Zealand. So we're an international organization running across, obviously a small part of the world, but across the ditch over to New Zealand, which of course Nigel's very familiar with. And we're very, very excited, I guess, to be able to move into some really interesting and exciting areas in the next year or so. And those have to do with a lot of innovation within our asset base, the things that actually help us to deliver the social impact that's so important to us. And I'll talk more about social impact a little bit later on. The ability to increase our workforce of volunteers, which we sit right now at just under 2,300 volunteers in active service around Australia and New Zealand. And probably most importantly, to be able to provide our mission and deliver our mission and provide a even stronger service to those people that are experiencing vulnerability, things like experiences of homelessness around Australia and overseas. So it's a little bit about us. We're going to dig a little bit deeper, I know, into what we do and how we do it. But Nigel, I'll pass back over to you to talk a little bit about your experience with Orange Sky.
Yeah, Mike, I really wanted to point out with this slide that I consider you a very modern digital business. And that's why I've drawn it that way with your friends, which is what you call the people you serve, the homeless people, your volunteers, the vans. I've always admired immensely how from day one, everything's wired together. So if people go to the Orange Sky Laundry website, for example, they can see live washes being done. It's not a marketing act. It's actually because those machines are connected in real time through Internet of Things. I think that really makes you an exemplar to me of someone who's really harnessed digital for a real social purpose. And the theme today in the last hour has been about being global, about purpose, and John talked about Rivian particularly. You've really got that well sorted. Now, last time we met, though, we were at the Australian Summit. It does seem so long ago here in Melbourne. We did a bit of a Gemba, up to see your headquarters in Brisbane at Albion, and saw the amazing vans and the new innovations you were doing. And I worked with you around thinking about techniques for innovation, those kind of things. But my favorite shot, I think, is on the next slide, Carly, of leaning into solving 2 or 3 themes that are fundamental to your business that I know COVID has really challenged since that point. So I think it was fundraising, shift growth. That was it, and the process of the shift. They were key metrics for you. We brought a bunch of people together with John there for some inspiration to try and see if we could. And Oriel, it was the orchestra conductor doing an amazing job, creating A3s, leaning into some very real life problems for you. That's what I love about LEA. It's just all these people from all these different backgrounds. But what happened next? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, well, next we took away some amazing, I guess, artifacts from the experience that we had at the conference, and we really started to really just dissect those and get a bit of a better understanding of how the process could be applied to Orange Sky. Like you said, Nigel, quite an innovative organization, very tech-driven. So things like agile and sprints and that type of language were things that we were already using as an organization. We really wanted to understand, well, look, how can another, I guess, set of lenses on our organization really be able to help us kind of kick ourselves into overdrive. So one of the things we did first is we went away and we took some of these models in the process that we'd gone through, and we tried to understand better where our main value streams were as an organization and where potentially we could find some opportunities to apply some of the concepts of lean, and I'll talk about one of those in a moment, to those value streams. To give you an example, we took a look at our what's called service operations. And service operations are part of our operations team that focus very much on making sure that our assets get to where they need to be to deliver impact, and that our volunteers both understand how to deliver the impact and can get to those locations that are safe and supportive for them to deliver the service. So we started pulling apart that value stream, and we used the lens of the 8 wastes to really identify some of the things that we felt were inefficient about the process, and some gaps and opportunities for us to increase efficiency along the way. And some of the examples of the things that we found that some of the locations, for example, where we would site a van, one of our assets at a van base, could sometimes be up to 45 minutes away from its outermost shift location, making for a significant amount of wasted time in a volunteer's life, the potential for traffic to stop the van and it not get there on time to deliver great service, and all of these other things that we could see as leakage for the system. So we redeveloped some of our van base placements and the way that we ran and set up our shifts to be able to optimize, I guess, the time of the volunteer, and to optimize our ability to be able to deliver as much impact as possible for those kind of 2 to 3 hour shift windows. So we really started pulling that apart. And I think that was the exciting thing to us, is we could suddenly see an opportunity to get very, very deep into those value streams and use this as a lens to pick them apart and create efficiencies where we could see there were opportunities.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike. And what about since the pandemic's hit? What sort of challenges has that thrown up for the organisation, and how have you responded to them?
Yeah, it's a question that everyone asks kind of 2 years on. We went over what's called, and I made this in the nicest possible way, a COVID cliff. And it's actually in our data. I've shown this to Nigel, where we track all of our shift data, our output data as it happens. So we know what shifts are happening, what washes are happening, how many showers are happening, how many friends are visiting. And within the span of March 2020, through till late April 2020, we went from over 250 shifts, which is a peak for us, per week. So every 250 groups of volunteers going out with an asset and delivering our service, down to 4. So for 250 a week, down to 4 within a period of about 4 to 6 weeks, which for us as an organization, we don't talk about profit. We talk about impact. The social impact is what we deliver. That was effectively all of our profit drying up and disappearing, all of our revenue, not profit, all of our revenue drying up and disappearing very quickly. And that had a real impact on us as an organization, because it wasn't revenue. It was people that couldn't get service when they probably needed it more than they did prior to us, delivering at our peak of 250 shifts. So we had to find ways to claw ourselves back up. And we, as a team, as an entire organization, not just an operations team, one of our the key area of focus became, how do we climb back up that cliff and get back up as quickly as we can to as many possible shifts as we can deliver. And it took 6 months to get up to a point where we were at less than 50%, around 40% of our shifts, maybe 100 shifts. That was kind of coming in July 2020. Very proud to say that we rebuilt many of our systems around health and safety. We rebuilt our volunteering systems to be easier for people to onboard and to come back into service. We rebuilt our communications and storytelling systems so that we could continue to be able to build revenue, and bring on more corporates to support us financially at a very difficult time. And as of this past week, our report came through that we were peaking at over 258 shifts per week, which is above our COVID numbers. And so it's taken a long time, but we're pretty excited to be at a point now where we're actually stronger as an organization in terms of our systems and processes, but also delivering more impact than we were in pre-COVID days.
So basically, sorry. I was just going to say, it basically gave you an opportunity to make some of those improvements while you were in that space, that low shift space, that you could build things back up to be ready to go when COVID settled down to a point where you could relaunch, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Nigel, did you have something to follow on from that?
Yeah, I was going to say the other interesting thing in that period, of course, you diversified into becoming a software maker. So tell us about that sort of side journey, as well as focusing on innovation in your operations. What led to that? Tell us about Campfire.
Yeah, well, we were lucky, and you're using the old language, Nigel. It's now called Volaby, and that's an entire branding story in and of itself. But so we were lucky enough to get a grant from Google, one of their social impact grants, in 2019. That kind of stimulated our ability to take what was designed in-house as a piece of software to manage our volunteers and our operations, everything from scheduling vans to scheduling services within parts of those vans, through to making sure that volunteers knew which shift to go to and how to get there. That software was something that we thought could become a revenue stream, but also a way for other organizations to improve their systems and therefore generate more impact, because those systems were more efficient. And so we started building that out. Initially, it was called Campfire. It's now a commercial product called Volaby that we provide to a number of other not-for-profits across Australia and now overseas. Sea Shepherd is actually using it in the United Kingdom now, so we're expanding overseas, which is what's great about a software as a service product. And right now, the other thing that we're doing is we're starting to unwind our Orange Sky portal, which was that kind of grandfathered tech, and we're basically bringing Volaby up to a point where we can start to integrate all of Orange Sky's services to use that system as well. So the tech will become part of our kind of DNA very, very soon.
Now, the last time we all met up, you were I remember very long, Denise came and helped us out, and we had, big Miro and looking at all your programs of work and change. You're very obsessed about number of shifts and a big true north of getting to a place where a huge uplift in shifts, despite some of the attacks from the pandemic and those kind of things. Is that still your true north? Does that still hold as the thing you talk about all the time, the number of shifts, or is it kind of nuanced a little more now?
I think it's definitely nuanced a little more. I think we were very focused back then, and although shifts are still very important to us, we were very focused on what you'd consider to kind of be your production unit. If something was coming off of the assembly line, it was one widget. That shift was our widget. But it reflects all outputs, and the outcomes that are part of that widget working is how the friend is impacted. So how that person that we call a friend, that person experiencing vulnerability, is impacted in terms of quality of life, or in improvements in mental health, or in remote communities, a reduction in the prevalence of scabies due to clean clothes and the ability to not have to present at a hospital for medical attention. So we started really looking deeply into those outcomes. And from that, really our True North kind of, it evolved, and as it should, it became much more about the number of friends that we help, the number of people that we actually help. So the numbers in 2020, we helped 13,400 people over that year. And our objective by 2025 is to help 40,000, and that's a per annum figure. So you can see it's a well over doubling, coming up on 60% growth over that period of time, which is very exciting. But with it, of course, comes a significant scale up in our systems, our ability to deliver efficiently, effectively our shifts. And so that True North kind of got a few pillars underneath it to help drive us forward. A strong focus on people, supporters, innovation, and those friends as being kind of the four main pillars. But underneath that, as kind of the bedrock, sat three main areas of focus, and that was to ensure that all of our shifts were high quality, so that we had a high quality aspect to our shifts, and that meant that we knew that those shifts were in the right place for friends to access, that we had the right number of volunteers, that they were safe and supportive, that we had a great service provider partner that would provide wraparound services. There was an importance to have quantity, and that's the pure number of shifts. So we wanted to make sure that we had as many shifts in as many of the locations where they were needed across a region, let's say a city like Melbourne or Sydney. And the final one, which it's my favorite because I'm a bit of a geek in this space, but it's simplicity. So it's just looking at the efficiency and the effectiveness of the systems and processes that make sure those shifts are in the right place at the right time and are safe and supported for all of our team members and stakeholders.
Yeah, fantastic. So with that shift or that honing of your True North, how has that shifted or changed the way you're delivering your services as well?
I think in a number of different ways, but probably the two I'll hone in on. One is in the type of shift that we're offering, and the other is in the type of asset that is making sure that shift delivers social impact. And so the type of shifts that we really started to move towards were things like community recovery and response-based shifts. And we'd done some of those in the past, but we'd never really put in place a system that allowed us to very quickly and rapidly deploy a shift and a group of people and an asset to a location that needed it, yet still be able to deliver the service to the people in the previous location. So you can imagine a van coming out of Sydney to go to Bega to help with the fire relief. We'd still have friends in Sydney that would need our service, and so we had to find ways to be able to not lose any social impact or any shifts, yet still be able to deploy rapidly. So things like rapid deployment of different types of shifts was very important. We also took a look at different type of volunteering. So starting to look at, instead of people that were on a steady every 2 weeks shift, people in places like Mackay that fly in and fly out, and had to kind of almost create very bespoke teams every time a group of those, let's say 30 volunteers, a different group, we're all in different places at the same time. So if 20 of them are out in a mining site and 10 of them are back in Mackay, well, those 10 would do the shifts, and then they'd kind of fluidly move between rosters. So we had to change the way that we actually did kind of the architecture behind the rostering of those shifts. And then in terms of assets, we had to start looking much more at not just vans that drive around, but also, like I mentioned, those things like laundry pods. And right now, although it's not very highly publicized, but it is starting to just get a little bit of publicity down south in South Australia. We have our first laundromat that's actually going to be launching. So the very first laundry of its kind for Orange Sky nationally. We're also running a partnership with an organization in Australia that takes in or is basically a provider for paying for laundry within laundromats. So their technology is to take the funds and get the washing machine working for the person that needs to use it. And we're working with them on a process that allows them to, me to walk in and do a wash, but also pay a wash forward to someone else that's needy in the community. So suddenly that's another whole social impact stream that is off of a totally different asset type, not technology that's ours, but using our network to be able to funnel people towards that type of technology. So it's probably a few examples.
That's some great innovation, Mike. And I think keeping to your true north it gives you such a sense of purpose that you're able to kind of neutralize your biases around we should be providing washing machines when the outcome is clean clothes for a family who probably would have spent that money on food otherwise, which I think is amazing thinking. Hey, now I was at the bookstore recently and saw Trail Run magazine, and you're in it. And what people don't know is that at the last summit that you came to in Melbourne, you just finished a giant ultra marathon through rural Victoria. Is it like that's a real psychological game as a sport? You find you bring that into your job as a lean leader at Orange Sky? What's the mentality of the ultra marathoner that works for work?
Yeah, no, it's look, absolutely. I think it's in the way I approach things, and the way ultra marathoners approach things, or any endurance athlete, I think is certainly there's a lot that resonates within kind of the discipline of lean. And you'll notice in that magazine article, Nigel, I talk about myself as not a hugely highly accomplished ultra marathoner. I do all right for my age now, but I think about myself more as a trail cowboy. And I might hit on a couple of the things that make it, the trail runner like a cowboy, but also the business person or the MBA student, a bit like a cowboy approach. And a couple of the ones I'll hit on that definitely align with lean is be tough but fair. And I think when you're taking a look at your systems and processes, you have to be tough on yourself. You have to ask the tough questions, the whys. I remember John Shook. The first thing he said to me when I met him was he jumped into 5 whys, and it was one of the most penetrating discussions I think I've had, because he almost looked directly into my brain and was able to pull things out so quickly it wasn't even funny. So be tough but fair is certainly one. So also be fair around how you measure your success and how you measure your challenge and those types of things. Talk less and say more is another great trail cowboy mentality, and I think that's really be ready to go on that Gemba and ask the right questions, but listen. Take the time to really listen and investigate and understand before jumping to conclusion and solving problems. And I think those two are major ones. One that's not in the Cowboy Code. Those are 2 from the actual Global Cowboy Code, and it's my favorite, is it's okay to walk. And I think this really gets to the point of taking time to understand a system and a process and to dissect it. And sometimes it's okay to run at a sprint. Sometimes it's okay to just sit back, walk slowly, take stock of yourself. And this, as a trail marathoner, you come to a big mountain and you're 90 miles into a race, it was a 100-mile race I'd run just before I got to the conference. And you get to that last kind of big mountain. Sometimes it's just okay to say to yourself, hey, look, I'm going to pop a gel. I'm going to walk up this at a good pace, and I'm going to scream down the other side. But you have to be able to pick that. And if you can't pick that, then it's a great way for you to blow yourself off the mountain. Just like it is to blow yourself out of a business, I think.
Great wisdom for pandemic times.
So you've done a few lean things along the way, Mike. Is there a specific process or case study that you could share with us with some outcomes?
Yeah, I think one of the ones that I kind of mentioned a bit earlier on was around looking at our playbook as an organizer, as well as a service operations team. We've done that for all of the sub departments within operations. So we built our playbook for volunteering, and we really delved kind of into exactly what it looks like for a volunteer of a different type, because there are many different personas of volunteers, but understanding, what is the persona of the volunteer that works at Orange Sky, or the multiple personas, how can we create a playbook that speaks to them? And then design our communication strategies and our recruitment and attraction and our upskilling, and potentially even our eventual, when they exit the service, how can we build all that and really understand it? And we had to use tools like, building up a playbook, dissecting our, service operations using an A3, taking that A3 mindset and really getting deep into understanding and critically understanding how the service operations was either successfully delivering on our mission and our aspiration of 40,000 people helped, or whether it was slowing us down. I've talked a little bit about waste, that lens of waste as well. But really, when it comes down to it, all of this links back to our, kind of very strong approach towards mission-driven impact. And I think that's, if I could add one other one in here, I think that's really exciting that we've just finishing up our pilot on right now, is we collected information from our partners, such as our service providers and our funders, but we never really collected information and true outcome information from our friends. And we've just partnered with a group called ROY, and we've really spent some time digging into friends and understanding what their drivers are and why they come to our service and where they come from. And I think that's a really exciting evolution for us, because it gives a friend's voice to a space where we haven't really had that type of data and information before.
Hey, that's awesome. I'm going to, because Carly's been working on something that's a massive true north, which is getting 25 million people vaccinated in an efficient and organised and non-wasteful way. The true north for Australia around homelessness, let's be honest, it's not getting any better. Is that something as a bigger true north that Orange Sky thinks about, or you kind of keep your focus down on what's practically done? What's your philosophy there?
Yeah, I'll definitely speak from a bit of a personal aspect on this one. I think it's one that we grapple with. We know that as an organization, we are out there in a position where people actually come to us on the street, and you could come under criticism, and there certainly has been criticism around perpetuating homelessness. But I think when it really comes down to it, what Orange Sky is trying to do is it's trying to create a community that values positive connection more than anything else. And what we've seen, and what we'll continue to learn more from our friends as we collect data from them, collect their voice, is that a lot of it really doesn't come down to the fact that they're experiencing homelessness at that time. What they're often experiencing is a complete lack of connection. And for them, the value becomes not just having a home. And many actually come from a place where they're living a home and actually still attend our shifts around Australia, simply because they want that connection. They value that community. I think that's a lot of where Orange Skies, I think, value will be in the future, will be really strengthening the community ties and the purposeful and non-judgmental conversations that occur, and how that creates that connection. And I think that will assist in the whole opportunity for a functional zero in homelessness, where we've really got people entering and we've got people exiting, because it's an experience. It's not a life. You're not forever homeless. Most of us were not born homeless and aren't there for the entire life. It's an experience. I think part of Orange Sky's journey will be helping to be part of that functional zero, of getting people out of it as quickly as possible and transitioning them through it as quickly as possible.
But I suppose supporting them while they're in that period is really important as well. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. You're on mute, Nigel.
One final plug for you, Mike. I know this Christmas you've got donations being doubled. I'm just going to be completely brutal and honest and out there. If anybody wants to put a great Christmas present, take opportunity with that with Orange Sky Laundry. Thanks for coming today. I'm loving that the story is continuing, that you're still a great student of Lean. And we'll catch up with you very soon in the new year.
I am so looking forward to it. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks, Kylie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.